see. I am your brother in Christ. So today's topics will be covering multiple ones. The first one is socialized healthcare, or healthcare for all, kind of how you want to look at it. So I want to talk about this definitely because it's a hot topic as far as the election coming up in 2020. Is this something we should go down? Should we pursue socialized healthcare as, or universal healthcare, or whatever, one payer healthcare, whatever they want to say about it? They seem to switch names faster than I changed my underwear. So, that's not a good hygiene statement, but say la vie. So socialized healthcare. What are the pros and cons of it? Being able to have basically one healthcare that covers everything everywhere. That's their major pro as far as I could see. It being free, which means everyone else actually pays for it, and so do you through your taxes. Now, I already pay 30% in my taxes. Sorry about that. I pay 30% of my taxes, and that, I mean, how much more do you need? Because I'm self-employed, so I'm in my own little tax bracket, and it's not nice. So how much more blood do you want the government to take at gunpoint? I mean, the government is literally taking this at gunpoint. I was in a discussion not too long ago. It was actually a customer of mine. We were talking about healthcare, and he's very pro socialized healthcare. I don't see it as being a good thing in any way, shape, or form. I see it as being a bad thing. We'll talk about why here in a little bit. His main points, though, was don't you want to be able to help people? This would help so many people. The problem is this is also going to harm a lot of people in order to get us into this. And has this actually functioned? I think the biggest point he had was the governments that currently have socialized healthcare, do they go back to just normal? They could elect it in there. So that was his major standing points. We have such places like Canada that have healthcare like that, socialized healthcare. What about Sweden, these other places? And they're not going back. They could go back to the way we're doing it, but they obviously choose not to. Therefore, it can't possibly be any worse. There's some issues with that, and I kind of pointed out. Have you ever known a government to willingly give up control? There are some rare occasions of that happening, but not many would give up. Definitely if they have a lot of money in this deal. So I didn't see that standing up too well to scrutiny because, not the best. So, but the next statement is, since don't you want to help people? Aren't we supposed to help people? I mean, there are plenty of verses in the Bible that says we're supposed to help people. But there's a big difference from socialized, anything that is government run, government dictated to you. Because the government's telling you, this is what we're going to cover. And I tried to get them onto the topic of who defines that. Who really defines what needs to be covered and what doesn't need to be covered, what's optional, what's free, and what's not. And he was not getting on that because I asked him about transgender. Would the transgender surgery be government provided? Would I have to pay to provide this, what I see as just mutilation of one's own body, or in the case of children being forced into this, manipulation of parents in order to virtue signal or show that they're so virtuous that they allow their kid to choose their gender, because we allow kids to make life-changing decisions all the time. I mean, that's why we have 2-year-olds driving.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So that's where it would really define. Who would define it? It would be the government or the mob. Whoever has the loudest voice and can get the biggest following will then determine what can be given as free and what you have to pay as the taxpayer to actually support this. Now, I'll give it to Bernie Sanders. At least he comes out and says, yes, everyone's going to have to pay for this. At least he's not trying to lie on this topic anymore. He's full out coming out and saying it. So I pointed that out. He dismissed it as being just slippery slope. That's a slippery slope argument. Well, guess what? Slippery slopes exist. They happen. I remember the Boy Scouts. I told them this is slippery slope. You change your foundational beliefs in order to accommodate peer pressure. Then they are going to come back at you again and again and again and continue to change you until you are no longer what you once were. Yes, that's a slippery slope argument. Yes, it was completely and utterly valid, and I was right, unfortunately. I had to give up that position because I was right in that regard.
Which sucked.
So, that being a slippery slope argument, yes, we could eventually get to that point. No, there's no way of being able to prevent that from happening with socialized healthcare. His next statement is, well, don't you just want to help people? Don't you want to just help everyone and help people? Yes, I want to help people. I don't want the government to tell me that I have to help people. There's a slight difference. There is, someone comes to me that I know personally, and they're going through a hard time. They just got diagnosed with cancer. They need help. Okay, I can then help. Sorry, my wife just came in, so I had to see if she needed something. But I can then decide to help them, and as far as community goes, as far as outreaches or nonprofit organizations, I'm fully behind that. My wife and I support Compassion. We are literally supplying enough money to keep basically help a kid out to get the education and eventually be able to pull himself out of poverty. But we are choosing of our own free will to do that. The government did not dictate to my wife and I that we had to take this kid from the middle of nowhere in some backwater nation and help him get the education, food, and support he needs in order to be successful in this world. We did not get dictated by the government that we had to do that. That was of our own free will, and we love doing it. It's fantastic to do it. I'm grateful to be able to do it. But the difference between that and the government saying, oh, you got to do it, is I'm no longer being generous. I'm just following the rules. I'm just being a robot, just doing exactly what the government says to do. So I said, no, I don't want to do it if it's going to be at gunpoint. And he gave the statement I've heard so many times whenever I pointed that out. He said, oh, no. There's not going to be guns. There's going to be no. The people are not going to show up at your house with guns. That's just a falsitude. So I said, okay. This is going to be part of taxes that I have to pay in order to support this. So what happens if I decide not to pay a portion of my taxes? What happens? The response is, well, you get a fine. My next statement is, what happens if I do not pay the fine? Then I will get a bigger fine. And what happens if I refuse that one? The police would show up at my door to go to court. Well, actually, it'd be a court summons. And then if I ignore that, then the police would show up at my house And what do the police have? They have guns! So I skipped all the middle step and got to the end. Which is, people show up at my door with guns if I refuse to pay this. So they are literally forcing me to pay for other people's healthcare at the point of a gun. Very basic logic to follow to find that out. And thus, I don't like that. I don't support that. That makes no sense to me. Sometimes, yes, you end up with bad health conditions, bad situations that are at no fault of your own. You know what? Some of the health conditions are your fault. Life choices. You decide to not eat healthy. You decide to go out drinking all the time. You decide to shoot up and do drugs, which is something that happens quite a bit and costs taxpayer dollars. It costs us taxpayers millions of dollars just because of drug use alone. Not so much fighting it, but even the emergency calls, the medical bills, all of that end up adding up to a large amount out of the taxpayer dollar. And on top of that, you want to now completely support anyone's lifestyle, let it be druggy, let it be prostitution, anything like that, at our expense. The hard-working men and women of America who legally follow all the rules and are smart and wise with their money and are careful about their health, make sure they're healthy, make sure they go out work out, make sure they get the exercise that their body needs. You are now requiring them to pay and support someone who is not. No questions asked. You just get this. No sense. Now, our healthcare system could be improved. There are many things we could do, tweaks to the system that we currently have in order to increase, just be able to work better and be more productive. But I don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater either. I think we have a very good application. I think there are some major fixes we could do to the health system, such as making it known what you're paying for things. I mean, if I go into a hospital, I don't know what, if I go in just for diabetes check if I have diabetes or not. I don't know how much that's going to cost me. I don't know how much the test is going to be. I don't know how much it's going to be for a doctor to come in and give me a single report. I don't know how much it is. It's a big black box. And the worst part of it is, even if you ask people there that work there, they don't know. They don't know. It's a black box that even they don't know about. Imagine if you applied that to any other business. Wendy's. You walk into Wendy's. You want to order yourself lunch. And they have all these meals up there. All these selections you can do. But no prices. And they refuse to tell you. No one knows how much you're going to pay. You won't even know until after you've already purchased it. Said you're going to pay for it no matter what amount it is. Sat down, ate your food. A month, 2 months later, you get a bill in the mail. For whatever money they believe they should charge you. That's bad. Not even the doctors know what they're what they're charging their patients. Even the best doctor doesn't necessarily know that. Now, if you go to like urgent care clinics, those I really like because they're upfront with what they charge. The others, not so much. They really are not. So those are some of the ways that we can improve our health care. But to socialize it, to dictate it, is not only a bad idea. It is against the very fundamentals of Christianity. Whoa. I know what I said was just really out there. against the fundamentals of Christianity. What are you talking about? We're supposed to help people, right? Yeah, we're supposed to help people individually. We're supposed to choose individually to help people, not just give it over to the government, let them help people. We just live in our own little world and let the government help people. No, we are to help people. And the reason why it's fundamentally any sort of socialized fill in the blank is fundamentally against Christianity is because it comes on the simple assumption that if the government were to take care of humanity, humanity is inherently good by itself. If you remove every other aspect, if you remove money from it, if you remove everything, humanity is inherently good, and you're going to have perfect people who then run the socialized healthcare. And as Christians, we know for a fact that's not true. We know that humanity is inherently corrupt in its current form. Since we've fallen in the garden, we are inherently corrupt. We are born that way. We are born into sin. And that's why we need a savior. That's why we need to be saved, is because we are born corrupt. That is why any sort of socialization will not work, because it goes off of a very flawed, basic, fundamental foundation of us being perfect if we only remove these certain elements. That foundation is cracked already. Even before you try to do anything, it's already cracked. The deck stacked against you. You cannot win with that. So, all boiled down, I think came down to this. I said it should be left up to the individuals themselves, as well as non-charity organizations spread out. There are many of them. St. Jude is wonderful. I know Compassion is wonderful. There are a lot of corruption, though, in those organizations as well. Not so much the ones that I mentioned, but some of them really do only give a very small portion to whatever you're giving to, where a lot of it just goes in the pocket of either the owners or investors in that group. That being said, yes, there is corruption. Absolutely, and he was right about that. My only standpoint is, when has the government done something right when it's run? Something that involves money. When has the government not been corrupt? The answer is not. Look at the Postal Service. The Postal Service itself is a great example of this, because for the longest time the Postal Service was the only way to send mail. And then you had FedEx come up, and then it started getting competition. It started to enter into the free market sort of model that we have, and since then we've got tracking numbers, we've got better delivery. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, you send a letter to my grandparents, which they lived half an hour away from us, and it would get there 3 to 4, 5, 6 days, whenever it got there. Now you send it, and it's going to get there pretty soon. It doesn't take nearly the time it used to. On top of that, if you send a package, then you have tracking, you have insurance, and these were things that weren't given originally, when it was the only thing that you could do is just send it through normal mail. They were the only ones running it. So that is really where it comes down to. Do you think the government would be capable of running an organization that you're dealing with thousands and thousands of dollars with a whole lot of people that are needed to run it without there being large-scale corruption in it? Do you really think that could be the case? Or would opening it up to a free market platform where the prices are visual, everyone can see what the prices are, there's nothing hidden behind closed doors, You know exactly what you're going to pay before you even start the surgery. Would that be better? Or you could go to the clinic down the street and get the same surgery for less. Or more, depending on what the prices are. So opening up to free market, I believe, would be much better. So that is the thoughts of socialized healthcare. That's why it's anti-Christian at its core. It is going on that false fundamental belief that all Christians already know is wrong. So you cannot have Christian beliefs and believe that socialization will work. They are incompatible ideologies.
Let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Thank you guys for joining me for that. So, relationships, marriage, dating, all the fun stuff, all the butterflies in your stomach, all that enjoyable stuff. Oh, how I do not miss those days. I so love my marriage. But dating, actually talking about it. We just had Valentine's Day. It just came, passed, went. I had some time to reflect on all the joys of dating. The joys of dating. Definitely now in today's world, there are so many things. Dating has become so dangerous and twisted from what it originally was. We once treated dating like we currently treat marriage, as far as a culture goes. Now marriage can be temporary. Marriage is quickly, a lot of them, divorce is something that's very easily accessible. I've heard of 30-minute divorces where you can go online and get it done in 30 minutes or less. But just to abandon the marriage and go on. So we treat it like what marriage used to be. So marriage used to be forever. You get married, you're done. You have to work it out. Divorce was not an easy, quick solution. There was a lot of stigma with it. It was something that was bad, as rightfully should be. It should never be something that's accepted as a daily thing, or as even an acceptable thing. It's a destructive, absolutely devastatingly destructive thing. But nowadays we use it as quick and easy. And this has led to a lot of weak marriages. But we used to treat even dating like we do marriage, which was a big thing to be dating someone. The way I've always handled it, and I've always told my brother and sister this, is first of all, wait until you're 18. Sure, have friends, be social, have a bunch of, in their case, girls that happen to be friends, and maybe you like one or two or whatever. But no, don't do the dating thing. Don't do the date, and then if anything comes up, you instantly break up. Or just throw it away as soon as any rough spot hits you. Don't do that. All you're doing is preparing for failure in that case. You're treating it and getting used to the concept of being with someone in this basically pre-marriage state until you have a hard ship and then jump ship, go to the next one. All that's doing is preparing for how we currently treat marriage, which is if things get too rough or you get bored or you just need some sort of excitement, then you just go break up, date someone else, get a divorce. You're done. Don't do that. That's stupid. That is beyond stupid. All you're doing is preparing for failure. Why on earth would you prepare for failure? Not only prepare for failure, but plan for it, train for it, get used to it, where you're used to breaking up with everyone and being separated. Why? Definitely if you're used to jumping between relationships, where you go immediately from one to the other, to the other, to the other. No. You're damaging yourself, and you're damaging them. One, you're being a freaking jerkwad about it. Knock it off. I dated someone that was like that once, who was currently dating someone else. I didn't know when we started going out that it was like that. She was currently dating someone else. Once I found out, I was like, what the heck? Why are you going out with me when you're currently going out with them and in an active relationship for much longer than you've known me? Her response is, well, I'm just keeping my options open. I just wanted to experience something new. And back in my mind, it's like, yeah. So if we were to date for a long period of time, how long is it going to be before you need to try something else new? And I found out from the guy that she has done this before to other people. In fact, even to the guy that she was dating before this other guy. So I got out of that. I got out of that as quick as possible. But there are people that would do that. Now, that can come out of a lot of things. A lot of it's security, control. I mean, you've got a backdoor option. If you're currently dating someone, even if you're not 100% into that relationship, and you decide, oh, well, I want to try something new, so I'm going to start dating this person over here on the side, and that falls through with that new person, then I just have this other person to fall back to. Well, you're using people. Stop. You're using them. You're not being honest with them. You're not being honest with yourself. You're being destructive to that relationship because you're using it as a security blanket. That's basically it. You're using it as a security blanket. Fine with investments, not so fine with relationships because you're dealing with people's hearts. You're dealing with severe trust. That individual, that'd be woman or man, is trusting you with their heart, is investing into that relationship, and suddenly you pull the rug out from underneath them. Yeah, you're fine. You screwed them over, though. You jerk. Don't do that. So I was pretty upfront with my wife as we started dating. Back when we originally started dating. I didn't date, and I wouldn't advise anyone to date unless they're serious about it. Unless they're looking at possibly being married. Now, there's a few months, or even a little bit at the beginning there, where you're just dating, you're going out for a couple of dates, you're seeing if it works out. If it does, then you want to continue dating, then you make the commitment, say, hey, I'm not going to date anyone else, I'm going to date you alone, let's move forward with this. And I was pretty upfront with my wife at that point. I said, hey, I'm only going to date you if I actually want to marry you. If I don't see this going to marriage, then I want to recommend it, then I want to break up. There's no point in dating, no point in wasting your time, my time, emotional investment if I'm not willing to go through to marriage. And I would encourage you, if you're dating, to have this conversation with your maybe future spouse. Say, hey, is this going for marriage or is it not? Don't have any sort of hesitation. Oh, I didn't know if he's going to accept it or not. Or I'm not going to know if he accepts it or not. You know what? My second conversation with my current wife before we even began to know each other, I just laid everything I believed out, down on the line. Screw it. If she didn't like it, she'd be out. I thought, screw it. It'll be fine. Worst comes to worst, I saved myself a lot of heartache. But if she likes it, hey, we have something serious we can build off of right out of the gate. She didn't run away screaming, so it worked. Actually, got a lot of our beliefs out there forward, and we could really build from that, and that allowed us to quickly become very strong together as far as our relationship goes. Isn't that right, honey?
What?
I was talking about our relationship. What? Our first serious conversation. Not when I failed trying to flirt.
Yes. You said, hey, I don't agree with the world. The world is crazy. And I said,
Yeah, I figured she'd either run from that, or I'd end up with
I fell in love.
a great wife. So I ended up with a great wife, and it worked. Yay! See, it's not all crazy. It's not all insanity. So I wouldn't recommend that you date at 16. I recommend to you wait until you're 18. I did. Still went through a couple of relationships, didn't work out. That happens, unfortunately. I've made some pretty bad relationship decisions in my past. But don't treat it like other people do, where you can just break up at any bump in the road. Make a commitment. Go for it. And you will be richly rewarded if you are able to work through each hardship with your hopeful future spouse.
So that would be my relationship advice.
And if you are in a bad relationship, break it off. Don't continue to pursue it. It wastes your time. It wastes their time. No one helps. It doesn't help them. It doesn't help you. If you're in an abusive relationship, that definitely doesn't help you, and it doesn't help them. I know that there are many, many people that I've heard from that say, well, I just didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to cause them pain. Well, the issue with that is it still causes them pain, and it doesn't help them being in that abusive relationship. You need to be out of that. And they need to get some serious help. So,
Well, once you're married, do everything you can for that.
yeah, once you're married, treat it as gold. Treat it as, no matter what happens, you have to stay together and fight tooth and nail to do that. To stay together, no matter what, because there will be so many things in this world that will be thrown at you in order to break that marriage up. Marriage is something that is absolutely holy, something that is divine and inspired by God, set apart. And if you allow it, this world will break that apart. So good luck on that whole love thing and dating. I am personally very happy I am married and don't have to worry about that headache ever, ever, ever again. Never. I'm out of that game. I am your brother in Christ. Welcome to our second to last section for this video. And I wanted to just cover this. First of all, you are not alone. The enemy's plan often involves isolation. If they can make you think that you're the only one who stands against us, you're the only one who opposes us, you're the only one, and it's insane because everyone else is doing it. Why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you supporting it if everyone else is supporting it? Why are you getting in the way of love? You're not the only one. You're not the only one who has to stand against it. And we have to stand, as Christians, we have to stand against things that the world deems wonderful, that the world deems the greatest thing ever. You know what? You're not alone when it comes to standing against homosexuality. Homosexuality is a horrible thing. It is destructive for both the individual that is doing it, as well as any culture that supports it. It is absolutely destructive. It is twisting what God has ordained as pure between husband and wife and corrupting it into something so twisted that it is poison to whoever drinks of it. It really is. It will not allow you, such sins will not allow you to be able to build a relationship with Christ. And it will lead to your eternal death and separation from God. You can't be both Christian and pro-homosexual, just like you can't be pro-Christian and pro any other sin out there. Any sin will cause separation. Definitely living in a lifestyle like that. No, it is against the Bible. It is against God himself. It's against your own body. You're taking something, again, that is holy and twisting and corrupting it. Homosexuality is undoubtedly a sin. Marriage. Yes, marriage is holy and should be set aside for men and women only. As far as I'm concerned, government should not even get involved in marriage. This is something that was set aside by God at the beginning, before any government was founded. With Adam and Eve in the garden, there you go. There's the foundations for marriage. It should be between one man and one woman. And it would be hopefully productive as far as making children goes, but there should be no time that divorce becomes even a concept within your minds. It should never even be an option unless in severe situations. And even then, it is the last resort when everything else has failed. Marriage is not something that is temporary. It's not something that's a prison. It's very freeing. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how amazingly freeing marriage is. I tell you truthfully, I used to have a fear of dying alone. I no longer have that. I'm free from that. Thanks to my wife and to our marriage. I have someone who is constantly with me, who's going to be with me the rest of my life, who will be in my corner no matter what, even if I screw up 1,000 times. She will always be in my corner. And through that, we now have our child, who we get to grow and nurture and watch become a powerful man of God. And through that was the blessings of marriage. Marriage is by far difficult and hard, and you have got to fight tooth and nail for your marriage, because everything in this world will try to destroy it. There will be every opportunity. It will be constantly under attack. From day one, it will be under attack. Why? Because it is something that God has ordained as holy. This corrupt world hates anything that God loves like that. Something that is holy and set apart, he will try to destroy. The enemy will never stop attacking it. So be ready to defend it. Husbands, be ready to defend your marriage against enemies, because they will come. Dating. Yes, you should not rush dating. You don't have to date everyone under the sun. Definitely when it comes to sex before marriage. My wife laughs at me as I stumble over my words.
Still in your corner, though.
Still in my corner, but laughing all the way. Yes, you don't need to date everyone under the sun. You don't have to have someone constantly dating. Keep it separate. Keep it planned for just those who you actually want to marry. For those of you that you think should marry at that time, who are ready to marry, then date. Then look at it. Because playing around and getting used to constantly breaking up with someone. Actually, I had someone say hi. Breaking up with someone or being separated all the time, that doesn't help you in the long run. All that does is prepare you to be able to break up marriages, to be able to destroy marriage. It gets you into that mindset. And that is not something you want to be bringing into a marriage. It's horrible. So no, you don't have to constantly date. being constantly told by the world, oh, you gotta date, you gotta flip from this. If you're not dating, then you just have no hope, no future. No, you don't have to date. The point of dating is to get married. And if you're not going to marry the person, then don't date them. Very simple. Very simple. And if you're standing against that concept of constantly have to date everyone under the sun, you're not the only one. I'm right there with you. You're not the only one who has to take a stance against transgenderism. I mean, that is... Talk about twisted. It is wrong. It is morally reprehensible. It is morally disgusting. It is repulsive. It is rotten. It is this. I look at it and I wonder what the heck's going through people's minds. Why would you reject what God has given you? You have this body. It has been given to you as a gift. And yet you reject it. You don't only reject it, you betray it by wanting to mutilate it. Because of this delusion. Now, people in that state need help. They need counseling to come to terms with reality. The reality is you can't do that. So you can't do that. Just so much. So standing against that, saying, no, that's not right. Men are not women, and women are not men. You're not the only one that stands there saying that. You're not alone. We're together in this. Cross-dressing. The concept of cross-dressing, you got this cross-dressing drag queens kitty hour. Thank you. My wife corrected me. Drag queen story hour. What? You're not the only one that stays there saying, what the frick? You know, if I had a daughter and someone tried to do that to my daughter, I'd drag them out and shoot them. I would. That is not only abuse. That's sexually abusing my child. And as a father, I have the right to defend my child. That is wrong. In the same way with transgender, guy walks in the bathroom behind my daughter, gets the crap beat out of him. No guy down in Texas that did that. More power to him. Yes, as a father, I am to defend my daughter. And if this insanity that we see is being forced down our throats and endangering our children, we have the right, no, the obligation to defend our kids. And yes, I'm standing there saying, what the heck's going on? No, that's not right. It is wrong. It is wrong and should not be allowed. You're not the only one. You're not the only one that stands against porn. I don't know, growing up, everyone does porn. Everyone does porn. Go watch porn. Porn's great. Everyone does porn. You gotta see what's out there to know what you like. You know, you gotta experience things in order to understand. No. It is destructive. It is, again, taking something that is holy and set aside by God and twisting and corrupting it. No. It is wrong. And it will destroy marriages. It will destroy relationships. It will rot anything out that it touches. And no, it's not a freaking noble career. Being a freaking porn star. What the heck is wrong with you? I don't know how many times I've heard that over the last couple of years. Oh, it's such a noble tradition. Oh, she can't ever do her noble job again. What are you talking about? She's a freaking porn star. She lets guys screw her for money. It's wrong. It's not only wrong, it ends up corrupting individuals, destroying marriages and relationships, and ruining people's lives. as well as it's a sin. It's absolutely wrong. It's taking something that God has set aside, twisting it, and getting it through another way that God did not set aside for. He did not intend you to be watching porn. He did not intend them to be having sex outside of marriage. And by doing that, there's a lot of chemicals that go on in the brain that then end up damaging some of the parts of your brain, actually. Overloading them and getting them used to seeing this. And then whenever you get married, you're not satisfied at all with your wife or your husband. Because why aren't they like that? Why aren't they look like that? Why aren't they perfectly like that? Not considering that you don't look like that either, but that's beside the point. No, it corrupts your mind, corrupts even your relationships, and will affect your wife, it will affect your husband, it will affect your girlfriend, it will affect your spouse, and in regard to that, eventually affect your kids as well. It is cancerous. And standing against that, saying, no, it's not right. Yes, it's out there. Yes, people do it. But it's not right. No, it's bad. It is evil and corrupt. So sex. You're not alone about sex. Sex should be after marriage only. It is set aside by God for husband and wives only. Now, what a husband and wife does after getting married between them, it's none of my business. So, whatever you do with your spouse is your business. But it's only after marriage. It's not before. You do not have to go experiment and sow your wild oats. Or, at least that was the old phrase they used to use. Go out there and, explore your sexuality and find out what you like and what you like playing with. And do you like this or do you like that? What do you prefer? No. Why? Why do you need to experiment? Why? You're going to marry your spouse and that's going to be it. That's all you need. All you need is for them to know how to satisfy you and for you to know how to satisfy them. And if you guys have waited until to have sex until after you're married, guess what? Both of you are going to have the same level of experience anyway, so it's not like you have to go get experienced. Both of you aren't going to know what the heck to do. It was very awkward. My wife is leaving me out to dry. I was not experienced. So what? I have the rest of my life to get experienced. And know exactly how my life, what pleases my wife and what doesn't please my wife. I have years and years and years of being with her. And it's great. My wife is fantastic. She's a great wife. But I don't have to go experiment. One thing is, then you end up desiring things that you once had. And be like, wow, my ex did it so much better than you did. What a jerk statement! First of all, you're a jerk for even saying that. Secondly, you don't need to have that experience, because then it just corrupts what you are currently desiring with your wife, with your spouse. I just think wife all the time because I'm a dude, so I'm that mindset. But no, to stand against sex, say no. It's not something that should be in our TV shows. It's not something that we should see soft pornography everywhere we go. It's not something that should be promoted everywhere we go. It's not something that should be on every billboard out there. It's not something that should be at the beach. It's not something that should be in every video game I play. It's not something that I should be constantly feeding myself. It's wrong. You're not the only one that stands against that. God. You're not the only one that believes in God. You're not the only one that says, no, the Bible is the Bible. No matter what it says, I have to go with it. My stance is, if it says in the Bible, I have to go with it. If it doesn't say in the Bible, then it's optional or a downright lie. So I look at the Bible, and if someone says, well, it says XYZ, and I look at the Bible and say, okay, it says XYZ, what's the context it's put in? Okay, well, the context it's put in, yeah, homosexuality is definitely a sin. It's put in there repeatedly. It's definitely classified as a sexually immoral act. And the Bible has so many times it states about sexual immorality have nothing to do with that. Have nothing to do with anything classified as sexually immoral. And anything that is sexually immoral is something that is outside of marriage, between a marriage that is between a husband and a wife only. Anything outside of that condition is sexually immoral. And if the Bible says it's sexually immoral, I want nothing to do with it. If the Bible says that it's wrong, it's wrong. No matter what. I stand with the Bible. If you stand with the Bible, we're not standing alone. Even if the entire world stands against us, we're together and we're on God's side. Truth. There is one truth. There is one way to God through the blood of Jesus Christ, and that is absolute. There is no other way to enter into the kingdom of heaven but through the blood of Jesus Christ. Standing on that, you're not alone. You're not the only one that says, no, this whole idea of God being infinite and many ways lead to God, and it's just all one God anyway, so no matter what religion you are, it's all... No. Jesus Christ is the only way, truth, and life. There is only one way into heaven, and that is through the cross. Absolutely. End all be all. Stand on that. That's not a popular statement. Tell me about it. Truth. There is only one truth. Golly, there's no my truth. That is retarded. Anyone that says that doesn't even understand the concept of truth. Truth is supposed to be a constant. Now, there are personal opinion. You can say, well, my personal opinion. Yes! You have your personal opinion. And that's fine. You can have your personal opinion. I have my personal opinion. But the truth is the truth. All that needs to be said about that.
I have a video recommendation.
A video recommendation on it. What?
So, John McCrae, I believe is his last name, of What Do You Meme? He has a video with his wife where they discuss the topic of one way, and it's hilarious. I think it adds to this conversation quite a lot. So,
yeah, there's one way through Christ. That's it. There is no other option. You can't say, well, I'm going to follow Islam, and then I'll follow Christianity, and then I'll do Hinduism, and maybe a little Buddhism, and no matter how it works out, I win in the end. No! You can't be on the fence. Because there's only one way, and if you're not 100% that way, you're gone. That's the end. And that's the end of this section. Okay. Let's highlight some of the comments I've seen recently, which I've really liked. Either talk about, because there's either absolute stupidity in them, or just show them out, because why not? Let's start with number one. Pull up number one. Where's number one? There we go. Okay. Trap Town NCS. One of the things that I've really missed with live streaming is having a lot of people on there talking. I love doing that. So, it said, great stuff. Would you like to be YouTube friends? Sure. What's the difference between a YouTube friend and normal friend? We can be both. If you like both, we can be both. I don't care. If you're talking about doing some sort of collab, my email's up on my page under the About section. Send me an email. Let's get in contact. Even better if you have a Minds account. It's a lot faster to hit me up on Minds than it is my email. That's for sure. Sometimes that one gets kind of bogged down. So if you want to hit me up there, we'll talk.
Number 2.
Who should I contact? Okay. So this was on the Christian authors video that I did about Dale Newton, who does good Christian books, definitely science fiction, right up my alley. I love science fiction. So, but he does it with Christian spin, with the Christian main concepts built into it. It looks like she's asking who should you contact if you're looking at doing something about your book or talking about it or to do a collab. Go ahead and send me an email. Again, mine would be best, just because I am more active on there. If you send me a message on mine, I'll definitely get it pretty quick. I do a lot of my collaboration with people that I meet on mine, actually.
Let's go to number 3.
Global cooling. I've never heard about it. Actually, not a lot of people have. Surprisingly enough, they buried it. At least not a lot of young people. If you're old enough to remember. Either really, really, really cool because you know how YouTube works, or you're like the rest of your generation, which you're definitely not ever going to watch this video. So, let me go ahead and pull it up. Okay, this is New York Times. These were multiple ones. This was a post I made. And I put someone there once together throughout the years. In 1977, global cooling was a thing. It really was. They said, we're all going to die from this ice age. In fact, I do remember hearing some of this when I was a little kid. So, way when I was a little boy, I do remember hearing about this. Then you had global warming, which was big when I was a teenager. Everything was global warming. Everything was going to die because everything was going to get too hot. And then it was climate change, which we have our great and fantastic person of the year. Our expert who has yet to get to graduate high school or have any sort of actual intelligence. Last one, and of course we have our climate catastrophe that everyone is crying about right now, which, come on guys. How many times can you change your story on something and expect us to believe it? Really? Really? Do I think that climate change is something that's real? Of course I do. I just don't believe that humanity has anything to do with it, if at all. Very little impact. Okay, number 4. God bless you and your family, and thanks for the message, brother. Oh, this was on the Christian faith. This was the basics of the Christian faith, basically. You're welcome. Thank you very much for posting it. I appreciate it. Leaving your comments down below makes it very worthwhile, considering most of the time I'll get either hate speech or hatred. Someone on there crying about how I can't possibly be I'm a Christian tranny, and obviously that's the correct way to go because we all need to be Christian trannies. Yeah. Go check into a mental hospital. So now this is from BitChute. So I do YouTube and I do BitChute as well. Sorry for your loss. This was on my grandfather's video about my grandfather passing away. Oh, he didn't meet. I'm glad he made up with the Lord. People are going to have to put their faith in the Lord, like he said, to provide for their needs, and he does. And I live that daily. To run my own company, I've got to live on the grace of God alone. It's the only way I make it through. Pay my bills. It gets scary sometimes. Oh. Oh, and his final question there. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, will he find faith on the earth? I think sadly he will find less than I would expect. I think he will find very little, and I'm probably overestimating. Unfortunately, definitely from America. I think that's a large part because of our American culture, how much we have. I completely hated our Christian foundation. I think that betrayal will lead to a lot of problems. So this one is also from BitChute. Thanks, brother. This commonly annoys me. Oh, this was on. Did Jesus ever say, "I'm God"? Did he ever say that? Did he ever actually said that? I think before Adam was, I am. It's crystal clear, and it really is. It's plain black and white is there. I am, and then Jesus says over and over again, I am, I am, I am. And what do the Jews do? Immediately want to stone him alive. The only thing that would cause someone who would say that I am, or claim an identity, that would immediately be a death sentence, would be stating that he is God. And he is clearly stating that repeatedly throughout all the Gospels. There's not a Gospel that doesn't state that. Oh, this one. Okay. I was a little confused by this at first. It said that he is... Jesus Christ said that he was the Son of Man to let us know that he's not the son of... My speaker's in the way. The inbred serpent seed Cain. And then Canaan post-flood. I don't know what necessarily they're stating here. I don't think they know what that's actually referring to. What Jesus is referring to in this statement is Daniel 7, verse 13 through 14, which recounts, let me pull it up there, recounts his vision where he saw a son of one that looked like a son of man coming before the Ancient of Days, before God himself, and God gave to him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages shall serve him. His dominion is everlasting, which shall not pass away. So set aside, Jesus states this over and over again, I believe, if memory serves, 70 times throughout the Gospels, that he was a son of man. And he's referring back each time he's talking to the people who are familiar with this, who have grown up listening to the book of Daniel, to the Torah, and would have been very familiar with this, and is stating, hey, I'm this person. I am the one who looked like the Son of Man in this. This is me here. I'm the one who will have dominion, who will be an everlasting dominion that shall never pass away. This is me. I think this was the last comment, too.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for your comments. I do appreciate them. If you have any other questions, leave any of the comments in any of the videos. that I have before, and I will try to get back to them next week. At least pull my favorite ones from them. If not, then I'll skip this section. I'll just have 3 sections instead of 4 sections until I have enough to bring forth more comments from the abyss of my comment fields.
Which isn't very deep anyway, so we don't have to worry.
So, thank you very much, and let's go ahead and end in a prayer. Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunities that we have to serve you. Please strengthen us as we stand for your glory and your honor upon your word. Please guide us through all that we have done and the words that we are saying. Give us wisdom as far as how to decide the politics for the future. This great nation, where it's going, if it is going in a way that will spite you and hate you, or if we can guide it back to a path where it brings honor and glory to you. Please do not forget your servants who live in this nation during this time. Strengthen us and show us your way. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.